Alright, let's jump right into today's explainer. If you are a fan of high-stakes fantasy, tactical brilliance, and just moments of sheer unadulterated chaos, you are in for an absolute treat today. We're looking at the 39th entry of the Chronicles of the Gnoll Bane, which is this breathtaking account that drops us right into the middle of a truly desperate siege. The dwarven kingdom of Hammerdeep is under attack. The sky is literally filled with roaring fire, the ancient stonework is shattering all around, and our party of heroes is being pushed to their absolute limits as a flight of ferocious chimeras descends on the city in full fury.
Okay, let's dive into this because the second round of combat has just kicked off, and honestly, the battlefield is an absolute nightmare right now. The defenders, completely scattered. We've got heroes fighting on the battlements, heroes stranded on broken bridges, and these massive beasts just completely dominating the cavern skies. The air is so thick with smoke and dragonfire, you can practically hear the deafening roar of the monsters as they dive-bomb the dwarven defenses.
Down at the front gates, the Gnoll's Bane are unleashing absolutely everything they have in this desperate barrage. I mean, the magic flying through the air here is relentless. You've got Cedric channeling raw, radiant power, sending these glowing, celestial motes from his Starry Wisp spell just streaking across the battlefield. Calypso is firing off volley after volley of magic missiles. They're curving through the thick smoke and unerringly finding monstrous flesh. And right alongside them, Thane is just hurling firebolts up into the sky, screaming out words of inspiration over the sheer din of combat, trying to keep his companions from completely breaking under the pressure. It is a literal masterclass in holding the line.
And this brilliantly illustrates the utter, unpredictable chaos of this fight. Just look at the contrast. On one side of the battlefield, we've got the third chimera, completely driven mad by Thane's firebolt, lunging super aggressively at the city gate. It smashes its claws into the battlements and just unleashes a massive torrent of dragonfire. Sunny and Thane barely manage to dive out of the way. They catch some terrible burns, but Okazaki takes the absolute full, devastating brunt of that inferno. But contrast that with the second chimera. High above all this, Cedric's sleep magic has completely crippled the beast. It loses all control and spends several rounds plummeting helplessly through the cavern air, dropping nearly 200 feet like a literal stone before it finally manages to regain its wings right before it smashes into the depths below. It is a battlefield of just terrifying extremes.
But wait, amidst all these epic clashes of magic and monsters, let's slow down for just a second and focus on the smallest member on this battlefield, Ord. He's young, he's reptilian, and for a terrifying second, raw fear completely overtakes his growing bravery. As chaos erupts and the whole world is basically burning around him, this little creature scrambles away from the front gate, hiding himself deep within the dwarven stonework. He's just clutching tightly to his perch, trembling as these giants and beasts war all around him.
But in an instant, the entire narrative flips. Because just as the swordsman Roberto rushes the aggressive, fire-breathing chimera, the ultimate underdog makes his move. Now, what's really interesting about this moment is that Ord doesn't stay hidden. The small lizard darts right across the chaotic battlefield entirely unseen. With wild desperation and youthful fury, he leaps directly onto the massive chimera's neck. It is a flawless strike. He digs his tiny claws in deep, and his sharp little teeth find their mark right against that thick, monstrous hide.
The strike lands, a sudden spurt of blood erupts, and the massive, fearsome creature collapses to the ground, dead. Against all logic, against all expectation, Ornd actually helped slay a chimera. For a brief, incredible moment, the entire battlefield seems to just freeze in shock. And then, the dwarves on the walls absolutely erupt, roaring in utter disbelief and triumph. And there, right amidst the thick smoke and fading dragonfire, the little reptile stands proudly over a fallen monster 10 times his size.
So, that brings us to the next critical phase, battle above the abyss, taking place in the skies over Hammerdeep.
Now, as incredible as that moment at the gates was, the battle is far from over. Look up to the shattered bridge. The skies over Hammerdeep are about to become the stage for a fight that defies gravity itself. Remember that fallen chimera, the one that plunged 200 feet? Well, it caught the air at the last possible second and is now surging back up toward the battlefield with terrifying speed. But Talinor the Ranger is waiting. In an unbelievable feat, Talinor has actually managed to partially calm and mount another chimera. Seeing disaster approaching, he uses what little trust he's earned from this beast and steers it straight at the incoming monster. They barrel toward each other like two living siege engines. At the very last heart-stopping instant, Talinor forces his mount into a violent mid-air roll, dodging a catastrophic collision by mere inches, as the enemy beast shoots past him toward the shattered bridge below.
Meanwhile, down at the broken bridge, Okazaki is firing arrows from radiant wings, and the rest of the Gnoll's Bane are literally leaping from a 40-foot gate to join him. And the outcomes of these leaps, they are staggeringly different. Roberto jumps first and completely misses. He crashes 40 feet, face first, right into the solid stone. The dwarves literally gasp in horror. Yet Roberto, he simply staggers back to his feet and keeps fighting like gravity is a mere inconvenience. Sunny, however, attempts something far bolder. Inspired by Talonor, she tries to leap directly onto the back of the enemy chimera, but she overshoots. In one terrible heartbeat, the ranger slips right past the beast and vanishes into the dark abyss below the broken bridge.
And what follows is a mid-air rescue that will absolutely make your heart stop. Check this out. 1 second, Sunny drops into the void. 2 seconds, Talonor, flying hard through the cavern air on his mount, dives straight after her. 3 seconds, reaching down at the absolute last possible moment, he catches Sunny by the hand as she dangles over the endless drop. 4 seconds, they are struggling on the back of his beast. Sunny pulls herself up, while Talonor tries to switch places. She succeeds in getting aboard, but he slips. For a terrifying moment, they trade places entirely, with Talonor now left dangling over the abyss by Sunny's grip, held up by nothing but sheer, desperate strength, before he finally manages to haul himself back up.
While they are literally cheating death in the air, the fight on the bridge reaches its climax. Ord attempts another sneak attack but misses. Roberto and Okazaki are slashing relentlessly at the beast, and then Cedric the Druid raises his hand one final time. His starry wisp spell erupts into a massive, radiant blossom of celestial light. The magic pierces all 3 heads of the chimera simultaneously. The monster collapses. And just like that, the aerial battle is finally over. Which brings us to the aftermath, subduing the savage beast and uncovering a dark and twisted truth. An eerie, heavy silence finally settles over the shattered stonework of Hammerdeep. The fire stops roaring. The combat is over. But there is still one chimera left alive, the one Talonor rides. And what happens next changes the entire context of this battle. Let's move to the aftermath and see how this builds, because this is where the raw mechanics of animal handling really come into play. Talonor loose guides his surprisingly subdued beast down to the dwarven general, Thorek. Recognizing the absolute miracle in front of him, Thorek climbs onto the monster's back and orders Talonor to guide it deep into the lower storage chambers. They throw open these massive iron doors. Soldiers drag forward sheep carcasses. And while the lion and dragon heads tear greedily into the fresh meat, Talonor calmly offers the ram head a handful of magical goodberries. The beast is fully contained.
But, as the adrenaline finally starts to wear off, something is deeply wrong. Talonor finally gets a really good look at the creature he's tamed, and he makes a deeply disturbing discovery. Fastened tightly around all 3 necks of this chimera are heavy iron collars. And these aren't just chains, they are engraved with dark, unnatural symbols. Recognizing the danger here, Talonor takes some charcoal and parchment and carefully rubs a copy of these mysterious markings before leaving the beast locked in the dark.
When he brings that parchment back up to the rest of the party, Cedric and Sunny recognize the writing almost immediately. It looks like Elvish. Actually, scratch that. It's corrupted Elvish, a twisted, dark, and entirely unnatural alteration of the traditional script. So the crucial point is this. These chimeras didn't attack Hammerdeep out of some wild animalistic instinct. They didn't just wander out of the deep caves looking for food. They were sent. As the final fires of battle flicker and die throughout the Dwarven city, this heavy, terrifying realization settles upon the Gnoll's Bane. These monsters were bound, controlled, and twisted by dark magic. They had not come naturally. Which leaves us, and our heroes, with one incredibly haunting question to ponder until the next chapter. If these beasts were just the weapons, what horrifying power had made them this way, and more importantly, who was holding their leash? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I absolutely cannot wait to see where this dark mystery leads us next.